Full fanfare in Berlin for the golden wedding anniversary of the vows between Paris and Berlin this Tuesday. A joint cabinet meeting, a joint parliament session of the two nations celebrating 50 years since the Élysée Treaty. It was Charles de Gaulle and Konrad Adenauer, the two fathers of post-war France and Germany, who forever sealed reconciliation between once bitter foes and forever set Europe off on a path of peace and economic, political, even monetary integration. Of course, forever only lasts so long in politics. A reunified Germany sometimes seems to dwarf a France that's of two minds over how to reform its own economy and how to best fix Europe. Also missing from this marriage a bit of, how should we say this, romance. But have no fear, France 24 is here with a panel that's come with plenty of advice for these two countries. And today in the France 24 debate, we're going to be looking at that Franco-German treaty at 50. And joining us now here in Paris, member of the French Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee, Jacques Millard. Thank you for being with us. Also with us, Thomas Friang of Europhile think tank Europa Nova. Thank you for being with us. And who says Germans can't find business opportunities in Paris? Jakob Hessler of high-tech startup Tiny Clues is here. Thank you for being with us. From the German capital, Markus Kerber. He teaches at Berlin's Technische Universität. Welcome back to the France 24 debate. The France 24 debate where you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter, our hashtag F24debate. Now, this Tuesday, it's about symbols, joint cabinet meetings, joint session of parliament, two leaders born 1 month apart. And even though Angela Merkel campaigned for Nicolas Sarkozy and François Hollande palled around with the opposition SPD, the message for general consumption is, that was then, this is now.
What's not easy is to convince you that there is very good chemistry between us. We don't need to add electricity.
Perhaps this is the best kept secret, that we have the right electricity, the right chemistry between us, so we can cooperate peacefully.
Jacques Millard, does the personal chemistry, in fact, really matter in the Franco-German couple? The press makes a big deal about it, but does it really matter whether or not the two leaders get along personally or not?
Well, they have to go along. You know, states have no friends, but they have to go along. And this is the case between France and Germany. And of course, there is a lot of symbolic, as you say, in this meeting. And I agree on this symbolic, because sometimes we need to be symbolic. But it doesn't mean that everything goes smoothly. It doesn't mean that we don't agree, on everything, that we do agree on everything. This is not the case. And I would say today that, if I have to make a comparison, I would say that the Franco-German relation have reached a level of the Franco-English or British relation. That means you can tell each other off, you see. You can quarrel. You can even send you to hell if you want. It doesn't change the attitude of the nations between the two. Because they're interlocked. Not only that, because they appreciate one another, but it doesn't mean that the government don't have differences. And today, I personally will reproach a lot of things to the German government, because I think that the economic policy that they are conducting is just ruining Europe. That's all. So I would say I am very confident in the Franco-German friendship. This is something that we have to reckon with, and I think that is very stable. It's a very good thing, but it doesn't mean that we are going to agree on everything. And you say that we're not. We're going to look into those differences. Of course, the big difference when it comes to François Hollande and Angela Merkel is that, well, Merkel is popular right now and Hollande is not. That's according to opinion polls. Thus, Le Monde's Europe editor, Arnaud Le Parmentier, writes, for François Hollande, that means pretending it's love between him and the Chancellor. The French and the German Foreign Affairs Ministry organizing a superb hypocrites ball for the 50th anniversary of the Élysée Treaty. Do you agree, Thomas Friang, that it's a hypocrites ball? What we've seen the last 2 days is capping off with a nice performance of the Berlin Philharmonic?
I would not speak about hypocrisy, because it's not about that. It's about symbols and maintaining a relationship that has to be maintained. The only point is that France and Germany were used to build and pave the way for European consensus together, which is no longer possible today. First of all, because the balance of power between France and Germany, that was one of the main conditions to build this consensus together in Europe, no longer exists. Germany has carried on the reforms needed to maintain its economic power, while France has been postponing the reforms needed to build up its economic prestige. First of all, the balance of power is over now. And then there is no longer shared desire, a joint ambition for Europe. Germany has been calling for a political union, a more ambitious plan, a great plan for Europe, while France is having weak ambitions about that and speaking about...
But is that misunderstanding date from today or from the very beginning? Charles de Gaulle said that he wanted a Europe of nations, whereas from the get-go, the Germans thought of a more federal Europe.
I would say that over the decades, the Franco-German relationship on this specific issue has been evolving a lot, and that it came to a point during the crisis where some way Nicolas Sarkozy and Angela Merkel had the same vision of Europe, or at least could have the same vision of Europe, which is absolutely not the case today, because François Hollande is afraid of Europe since 2005 when the socialists did not get on a positive vote for the treaty on a constitution for Europe.
The new constitution for Europe. Marcus Kerber, there's an imbalance, we know, between France and Germany these days. You've just heard Thomas Friang say that the difference is that Germany has reformed its economy and France hasn't yet. But if the imbalance is in Germany's favor, is that a problem for you or is it an advantage?
Well, it is neither an advantage nor a problem, but it is apparently a problem for certain Parisian elites who have what I would call a complex towards Germany and who cannot do with Germany being both an economic giant and a politically sovereign entity. As a matter of fact, this imbalance in economic terms between France having lost its competitiveness and Germany having regained her competitiveness should lead Germany out of what they call the Franco-German couple, because Germany is the country with the greatest number of neighbors. Germany cannot do without having good arrangements with all these neighbors around her. Not only with one, France. France is one neighbor, but not the most important one. The Europe of today is composed of 27 states, and with these 27 states, Germany has to have a diplomacy and an understanding, and should not sacrifice that relationship to a privileged partnership of what is something, well, some call it hypocritical. I would say it is an innate misunderstanding. From the very beginning of the Élysée treaties, de Gaulle wanted to neutralize Germany, wanted to get Germany on France's side, and put it into a coalition against the United States, and this has never worked. And Germany, from 1990 onwards, has regained its sovereignty, and today has to think about a diplomacy, a sovereign diplomacy, which is good for the stability of Europe and not for the Franco-German couple.
Jacques Millard?
Well, nobody will reproach Germany to be a sovereign state. What I reproach to my country or to this government is that they have also to defend our own interest. And we have to reckon and to face the situation that the German interests and the French interests are not always the same. We are in an alliance, we are in Europe. Nobody, either Germany nor France, will leave Europe. Even Mr. Cameron will not leave Europe because this is geography. So this is no way to oppose these kind of things. But the fact is that it is true that Germany has many other neighbors, but my dear friend, France also. And our future, our, let's say, Schicksal, to speak German, is now playing on the south and no more in Europe. And what I think there is a misunderstanding in that both government tries to say we are the motor, we are the engine of Europe. I'm sorry, Europe is done. Europe is achieved. Europe will not go further on because neither Germany nor France will have to lose more sovereignty. So I think that we have to play it as it is. We have to be realistic. And there is another question, which is based on the misunderstanding between France and Germany. This is the monetary policy which has been implemented in this country and in Germany for the past years.
And in 15 other states.
Yes, that's it. And in fact, we have an inadequate tool, which is the euro. This euro is a Teufel machine, I will say it in German, an infernal machine which will kill Europe.
All right, Jakob Hessler, let me ask you. You work in the real economy here.
Try.
The German Chancellor and the French President this Tuesday, both pledging that they're going to shore up that monetary union with concrete proposals that can be implemented in the coming months. As a businessman, do you want to see the euro bolstered or the euro break apart?
We will keep it.
No, in a very, say, egoistical way, we obviously, as businesses, have an interest in maintaining a single currency because it just makes life easier and it creates the possibility to deal in a much easier way with other countries and with business partners in other countries. And so far, the Germans have indeed profited quite a bit from this euro, and sometimes they tend to forget that, which is a real question, because when they're being asked to contribute, they tend to forget that particularly. And I think the contribution to growth, to German growth from the euro, from the fact that these other countries were able to borrow at lower interest rates than they would have been. Obviously, what did they buy with that? They bought airports, Siemens undergrounds, they bought German weaponry, machinery, and in a way, they would not have bought that. So you could say, yes, they shouldn't have, but if they hadn't, then Germany wouldn't have exported that. Now Germans say we export to China, so who cares about Southern Europe?
Of bad currencies, bad money do you have in the Bundesbank today? 600 billions of euro of money that you will not get back from the Greek, from Spain, and so on. Yeah, so look at reality as well.
No, but that's at the. I was not arguing at the central bank level. I was arguing at the level of businesses who sold to Greece, to Spain, to Italy, equipment,
and they profited from it.
They lived in a dream, you know, and now reality is here.
All right, so they have to figure out how to manage it. I want to get back to one point that you made, which is looking south. Now, there's an issue right now that's on everybody's mind in this country, which is the intervention in Mali, and Germany pledging 2 military transport planes and humanitarian aid behind the shows of unity that we've seen the last 48 hours between the two foreign ministers of the two nations. Laurent Fabius and Guido Westerwelle are granting joint radio interviews. They've penned articles to mark the day. There's a lot of grumbling going on in France. How come the Germans aren't helping the French more in this intervention?
This is no surprise. 3 years ago, I remember the French defense minister who asked his German counterpart to send to Chad 2 helicopters. Answer, sorry, we don't have them.
But what about when it came to Libya? There, the Germans seemed to...
They did not want to follow. This is their choice, you know. There are things happening in the Mittelmeer, in the Mediterranean Sea, things happening in the Maghreb, Mashrek, that will have impact on France and Europe as well. This is the business. If the Europeans want to be blind and not look at reality, this is a choice. But we had no choice. We had to intervene. And as an opponent to this government, I support the government in its intervention because there was no way not to do it.
This is not the only way to present things in Mali and for the security of Europe. The only thing is that there are only 2 powers in Europe that can make it in Mali. It's France and the UK, not Germany. And Wolfgang Schäuble, the former finance minister of Germany himself, said that... Actual.
The current.
Yeah, the current. Said himself that Germany was not a country with the political power to do such an intervention, just because they don't have the capacity and just because of their history. So from the moment you understood that France and the UK are the only 2 powers that military and politically can intervene in Mali or anywhere else, you understand that the only powers who could make it possible for European defense or security system in Europe or assume at least the whole security of the continent are France and the UK, you understand why Germany has not been part of it. So this is it. If there is one thing to put on the agenda at this meeting in Berlin today between France and Germany is to speak about, is there a possibility to share leadership, that to assume the fact that Germany has taken the economic leadership in Europe and that France is still the only country in the EU to build up the capacity for Europe for a defense union. And this is a big deal that politically the only way to keep going on for the European system is to admit the fact that there is a need for foreign policy, a joint foreign policy and a joint defense policy, and that France is the only country able to pave the way for this system.
I'm sorry to say I can't agree. I think this is just a dream. Even Jacques Delors said very bluntly at the National Assembly, there will be no foreign policy for Europe, and that will last certainly years and years,
Jacques Millard, a couple of decades back, the French President François Mitterrand pushed the concept of a Europe Corps. There were even German troops that marched on the Champs-Élysées.
I'm sorry, this is a genuine gadget.
But why did that not pan out? Why did it not take off?
Because it's very simple. Because Germany has alienated its defense in NATO. And NATO is the only answer for many European states, except for France, because we can stand alone on certain issues, not everyone, we are in an alliance. And even for UK, when we have cooperation with the English army, especially in nuclear field, we know that in the background there is the Americans. So when those things will carry on, and then the Europeans themselves will not take care of their own defense by spending money, by saying we are going to defend by ourselves, there is no way to have European defense.
Marcus Kerber, do you think that Germany's defense policy should be more tied to France or should remain with NATO more?
It's not a question to be tied up.
Well, first of all, let me make great praise to the honesty, the intellectual honesty of Jacques Millard, because he has the courage to identify the problems and to describe the real risks we have taken with the euro. As far as defense policy is concerned, Germany is not only a member of NATO, but a very responsible member of the European community, and as such has always played a very constructive role, full of solidarity in common military interventions. It is a country with a certain history, a history which we should not forget, we cannot forget, and which public opinion doesn't allow us to forget. And that's why an intervention in Libya is something which is more heatedly debated in Germany than in other countries. Please mind the fact that for any intervention we need in Germany an authorization of the German Parliament. We don't send troops somewhere just because the President or the Prime Minister, the Chancellor, has taken that decision.
So Marcus Kerber, I'm going to have to interrupt you. Marcus Kerber, I have to interrupt you because we have to take a quick break. We'll come back. This is the France 24 debate.